up? It's 12:05. Nahmaduhu nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. A'udhu billahi minash shaitan rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Jazakallah khair, everyone, for joining to this session, career counseling session. Mashallah, I'm sorry for the background here because I was admitted in the hospital yesterday for my cancer. So please pray for me. And mashallah, we have great young minds on this call, and they need some direction and guidance. So that's the reason why we hosted this session, so that these two young, bright panelists can share their experience here, share their experience in joining the universities, give you some pointers as to what needs to be done, what should not be done, like in terms of the application process, financial aid, and all that. So Mohammed Nayan Nasser will be covering the admission criteria for the US universities, and Danish Khan will be covering for the Canadian universities. So inshallah, I request everyone to pay full attention and make notes, as well as if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them on the chat. Although, mashallah, we received a lot of questions. We received a lot of questions through the Google Sheet. So time permitting, we will try to answer as many questions as possible. Now I'm going to hand over the mic to Miss Noah Khan, who is a 10th
Sorry,
grader.
what?
She's a bright student. So please, if you can,
Sure.
yes, if you can, please go on mute.
Oh, okay. Okay.
1 second.
I'm Johnny, Papa.
Hold on. All right, now over to you, Noha. Please take over the session as a moderator and start the session. And once again, Jazakallah khair, everyone, for joining, and Jazakallah khair for our panelist, Muhammad Nasser, as well as Danish Khan, and also Miss Nuha Khan, who is a 10th grader, for moderating this session. Over to you, Nuha.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hope all is well with you during these times. So my name is Nuha Khan, and I am a grade 10 student, and I will be your host for this session. So before we get started, I wanted to say that if you have any questions for the panelists at any point during the meet, please feel free to ask in the chat, and we will try to get as many as possible in the duration of an hour, inshallah. So that with that being said, Brother Danish and Brother Muhammad, you can introduce yourselves.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Danish Khan, and I am a second-year software engineering student at the University of Ottawa. And I currently work at Lincoln Electric as an R&D software engineer and a co-founder for the startup Anoda.
Assalamu everyone. I'm Mohammed Nasser. I just graduated from MIT last year with a degree in aerospace engineering and a specialization in autonomous systems. I currently work on self-driving cars for Nvidia. A few years ago, I was the founder of a startup called Drones for Humanity. Yeah.
Okay, Jazakallah khair for that. So now I guess we can just jump right into the first question. So how did you narrow down your career path to the program you took? And what would you suggest to kids who have no clue where to start?
I guess I can go first with that. So narrowing down my career path was pretty easy, as I knew from the start what I wanted to do. So I was fairly interested in computer science, math related fields. So from an early age, I used to work on computer science projects, little things here and there. And then from then on, I pretty much reasoned that I should turn that into a career. So I just went with that. And
What is this?
sorry, can you guys mute your mics if you were thank you. So yeah, going off on that, I already knew what I was doing, but for those who don't know what they're doing, I'd suggest figuring out what your strengths are in certain subjects and what you like and what you don't like, and from there you can turn it into a career.
Yeah, just to add on to that. So if you have, in Danish's case, if you have a general idea of what you want to do, it would obviously be a lot easier to just kind of go into that career path. But if you are in a situation where you just have no idea where you want to, like, what do you want to start? If your interests are in like different fields entirely, what I would suggest is try as many things as possible, and as quickly as possible. You want to find out what interests you and what doesn't interest you. What definitely does not interest you, as soon as possible. So, say for instance, you have you're interested in both, like, say, medicine and
No, you have to listen to this.
and engineering and robotics. Like you have different interests in in expanding different fields. So I would recommend doing research on each of those fields, seeing if that stuff interests you. If you can look at that information and say, okay, outside of the classroom, like, I should not need a class to, quote unquote, force me to learn the stuff. You shouldn't feel like this is a drag on your education. You should be able to look at the subject and want to do this on your own free time. So that's my recommendation for how to choose a career path. You want to like rule out what you absolutely do not like as soon as possible, as early on, and then go from there. One thing I should point out is that in the US, colleges in the US, compared to colleges in Canada, when you apply to university, in Canada, you typically apply to the program. So you have to decide what you want to do a little bit early on in high school. Whereas in the US, you still have the first year, you apply to the university and then choose your major once you are admitted to the university. So you have a little bit more flexibility in the US. You can change your major with a little bit more ease. In Canada, it is possible. It does require a process. But yeah, I'll leave it at that. As long as you can rule out what you definitely do not like, you can go into university and then decide if you're in the US, or you would have to decide in high school in Canada.
Okay, so as a high school student, I can vouch for many when I say that lots of students are overwhelmed by the variety of universities that they can apply to. So how did you know what university is right for you, aside from the reputation?
So for Canada, it's a little bit different than the US, as Mohammed said, that you have to apply to the program. So there are a few top 3 universities, I guess, for each major that you're thinking of going in. For example, for computer science or software engineer, there's Waterloo, UFT, and then for health science, there's McMaster and McGill. So obviously, from the start, you've already known about these big name universities, but also you do have to take account the program as well, what they teach, what courses they take, um, especially like in general what interests you. So as well as maybe like the co-op programs. I chose Uwado specifically for its co-op stream, and from there, basically all you really need to do is figure out uh, the courses that they take, if you like them or not, and again, the reputation, obviously. But once you narrow that down, it gets pretty easy to choose what universities you want to go to. But again, when you start applying on UAC, which is the Ontario system that you use to apply to universities, there you have about 3 free choices, and then you can pay extra for more universities. What I did was I applied to 10 just to get all my options out there. But you can apply to as many as you want, and I wouldn't say don't apply because you don't think you're going to get in. You should apply because you never know, and it's always good to take that chance.
Yeah, I really want to echo what Danish said at the last bit there, at the last bit of his last bit there. Do not self-reject. If you think that you have even the slightest fighting chance, go ahead and apply. To determine if you are a good fit or not, that is up to the admissions committee. That's literally their job. So if you feel like you have even the slightest fighting chance, go ahead and apply. In the US, it's a little bit easier. Most most universities, they have something called the Common Application, or the Common App for short. That allows you to like fill out a preset set of questions, and then that can be sent to like multiple universities. As far as application fees go, if you have a demonstrated need, financial need, a lot of application fees can be waived. So don't feel like it should be a barrier to applying to many programs. As far as choosing which program you would want to apply to, first of all, you would want to see which, like what programs that the university offers. Because so you are applying to the university, not to a specific program. You get admitted to the university as a whole, and you can choose whatever program that you're in. So, so first you would want to like look at what the programs are in the university. There are a few like websites which have reviews of like the professors that are there, like the amount of like the kind of research that they do, if research is something you would want to get into. But yeah, so like, look, understanding the program is probably like the key to this. At MIT, they don't use the Common App application, so they have their own separate application system. But to understand how the classes are, MIT, for one, has something called open courseware. So online, they have a bunch of recorded lectures from a few years ago, just free for everyone. I'll post the link on the chat if anyone wants to take a look at that. So that is like that's one example of doing your research, just seeing how the quality of the education at the university before you settle for it. So yeah, I'll pass it on to Nuha, and I'll send a link to the chat.
Okay, so we actually have a question from the chat, and it asks, in your opinion, which one is better for artificial intelligence, University of Waterloo or University of Toronto?
I guess I can answer that question for you. Artificial intelligence is basically a subfield of computer science and software engineering, right? Of course, you've Waterloo and University of Toronto are huge universities in those aspects. I'd probably say University of Waterloo just because of their extensive software engineering program, and from there you can use your skills to apply in artificial intelligence. I'm not too sure about the courses they offer specifically, but again, you'd have to do a little bit more research on your own about which is better, because in University of Toronto what they do is that they have a first year of general, like first year that is general across all, I think, engineering or STEM, and from then you apply again, so it's a little bit more riskier. But in Waterloo, I think you can just get right into it, into the courses that you actually like and enjoy.
Okay, so how do you utilize your free time? As in, do you do anything that can be beneficial or productive for when you are in high school or university?
Okay, I can go first with that as well. So in my free time, generally, well, again, I like programming, so I do that relatively often. But if you're someone in high school and you're looking for things that you can put on your application, generally I would say to go with the things that you like, instead of specifically like catering towards those universities that have these requirements. So for example, for me, I like computer science. I like software. So what I did was I enrolled in computer science clubs. I was in the robotics club. I went to a bunch of competitions, like Skills Canada, um, and those helped me with my software skills, or even that like intrapersonal skills as well, with leadership, teamwork, those kind of skills. The universities really like that. So you can't just be a workaholic. Essentially, you have to be have those skills that make you all-rounder person. I would say in general, like you need those types of skills. And it doesn't just have to be STEM clubs. It can be either like DECA. It could be something that you like sports, like for example, I don't know, like rowing. That helps with teamwork and leadership. Though universities really, really like that. So I implore you guys just to look at the grander aspect of things and go into what you like, because from there, if you like the subject that you're um, working in, then you'll definitely gain skills that on its own, like naturally.
Yeah. So for to go back to the original question about like what I do in my free time. So I mean, now that I've graduated, I have a lot more free time. College was kind of a 9 a.m. to midnight kind of situation. High school had a lot more free time in high school, but back then, again, echoing what Danish just said, doing what you genuinely enjoy, either doing what you genuinely enjoy or doing that process that I mentioned earlier of seeing what you don't like. If you know what you like, if you are passionate about something in particular, go ahead and like, do that. Like just, you need to do things that basically show passion in this field. Being an all-rounder is great. But for a lot of top universities, one thing that they primarily look for is passion in one particular field, whether it is STEM or not. Like at MIT, they've showcased in a lot of their informational sessions, they've showcased successful applicants who have shown passion in the arts, in arts and crafts, and making things basically. So yeah, showing passion is like a surefire way of getting into a top university, in addition to being an all-rounder, having a diverse skill set. As far as free time goes, I used to do this thing where I would just go on Wikipedia and just, basically enhance my knowledge about, various things. Everything from like science and technology and engineering to like historical events, and even philosophy. And I would just kind of click through the links in, like, if you go to a Wikipedia page, you have links for like different references to different things, and just click through that and just learn about new things just for fun. There was no need for me to do that. I just did it just because I had the time to, and yeah.
Okay, so after you get accepted into your university and you've settled down, we know that knowledge doesn't end there. So what do you do other than going into class, other than like studying? Like, what's beneficial for your future career in university?
For me, I think the one of the most important things in university, or even in high school, honestly, is building your social life as well. Because once you get into university, everyone is like as smart as you, essentially, right? So the only way to stand out is to make connections. You have to make friends, talk to people, maybe get into a community like the Muslim community, right? And just being like, again, like I said before, just being good at studying does not mean that you're a good candidate for a job, essentially, right? Because you interact with people there as well. So one of the big things that I encountered when I first started university was creating a friend group that I could rely on, maybe study with, or maybe even just hang out after classes, right? Because that's a big thing. They have connections, and you have connections, and it'll only help you in the long run, especially with your mental health as well, because university is stressful, especially with these unprecedented times. It's really, really good to have that kind of fallback, and being able to interact with those who are of your age.
Yeah, for sure. Having that friend group is like probably your first like priorities, like as an incoming freshman, as an incoming first year. Like having a friend group that you can rely on, that like has your back for studying if you're taking similar classes. Yeah, definitely like your mental health is something that really needs to come first. One thing that I would recommend in college is to not waste your time on classes that you can learn the material on your own. So to illustrate this example is like when I was in my third and fourth year, let me point out that I never actually took a programming course at MIT, even though my job right now is almost entirely software engineering. I never took an actual programming specific course. I have taken computation courses where you learn the theory of computer science and all the mathematics behind it, optimizing algorithms and designing algorithms, etc. But the actual learning of the language of Python and C++, there isn't a C++ class at MIT, actually. There isn't one. I think there is a small credit crash course over the January break, but there isn't an official course that teaches C++. The expectation is that you can learn the syntax and the basic language structure on your own if you already know how computers work, essentially, or not computers work, how computation works. You have the fundamental building blocks of coding, for loops, while loops, basic arithmetic, control flow, and functions. Once you understand the basic structure of that, you can transfer that knowledge to any language. Every single programming language has those basic structures, and learning the syntax is something that you can do on your own time. And so that's the strategy that I employed as I was applying to full-time positions, to internships, learning things that you can easily learn outside of class. Instead of programming classes, which are offered in Python, MATLAB, etc. Instead of that, I took a lot of classes that are discussion-based, a lot of humanities classes. I've taken political science classes, economics. I've taken classes in philosophy, because those are things that definitely need a classroom setting. You need peers to talk about books and textbooks. It's a very classroom oriented subject, whereas programming is something that there are a lot of tutorials to do online. I mean, the syntax, just the basic language, specific to Python or C++, for instance. Computing and algorithm design is something that you would need to do in a classroom setting. It is a little bit trickier than just learning syntax. So yeah, definitely do classes for that if you're looking for a course in computer science or a related field.
Okay, this question is for Brother Muhammad, and it says, why do you choose MIT over other universities such as Stanford, Harvard, etc.? And how was your time at MIT?
So I must say that my 4 years at MIT was arguably the best 4 years of my life. It was really fun. Being surrounded by like-minded people is probably the highlight of it. Everyone, they come from all over the world or all over the country in the US, and everyone has something unique to offer. Getting to know everyone was definitely very fun. The reason why I chose MIT over Harvard and Stanford, Stanford is at least in computer science, they're primarily known for the software engineering program. I wanted to do something that is a little bit more systems oriented, and which is why I went into aerospace engineering. So backtracking a little bit, my main interest was in robotics and autonomous systems. At MIT, there are 3 courses that offer robotics, and each of them have their own merits. Each of them have their own specialties. The autonomous systems course that was offered by the aerospace engineering department was the most systems oriented. So instead of teaching you individual subjects, within robotics, the small mechanical engineering aspects of it, and then the electrical engineering aspects of it, and then the coding aspect of it, the aerospace engineering department really put them all together and taught how each of these small sub-modules, I would like to say, how they all fit together and how they interact with one another. And that's something that really appealed to me. Harvard is mainly focused on the humanities. They do have a phenomenal computer science program, but a lot of their main program their main focus is on the humanities. And then Stanford is, again, like I mentioned earlier, is the software engineering. And I was focused on more systems engineering / robotics. Does that answer the question?
Okay. So how do you prepare yourself to be admitted into top Canadian and US universities? So meaning, how would you stand out from the rest of the application pool?
So for Canadian universities specifically, there's a big I would say they really look at grades for 11 and 12, grade 11 and 12. But again, they also take into account your extracurriculars. So even though if you have, let's say, an average of 99% in high school, if you have no extracurriculars whatsoever, they won't admit you, like to be honest. So you still have to have those types of extracurriculars such as that are maybe related or even unrelated to your field. So what I recommend is again in high school, just join clubs that you like, maybe and work on join competitions, work on side projects. Those kind of things can really help you build the skills that you are able to put on your application. And again, for Canadian universities specifically, what they do look is at your grade 12 grades, more specifically. And sometimes grade 11 if they're unable to find the marks for grade 12. So what I really recommend is get your grade 12 marks as high as possible, but also dabble in some extracurriculars that you are able to build your um, skills on. Not, and it doesn't have to be again, it doesn't have to be related to STEM. It can either be your interpersonal skills, your social skills as well, because that's really, really important. They're looking at that because, to be honest, everyone who's applying to the universities you're applying to is smart, right? The only thing that stands out from you as a person is how you are as a person, essentially, right? So I can't really say much about US, but in Canada they do look at grades a lot more than US, but you still really need to be a well fleshed out person. So you can't just be cooped in your house studying all day, right? You still have to interact with people, right? Grow those skills, and that's about it.
Yeah, so for US universities, it's a little bit different. One thing I should mention is that they look at your grades from grade 9 through 12, all of them. And depending on the university, it might be a little bit more lenient. Instead of looking at your absolute percentage, they convert the percentage of every class that you take, convert it to a grade point average, and then use that as like a GPA. So it was a little bit more lenient for MIT. The way they did it was that they looked at the scale that Ontario uses, that anything above an 80% is an A, and therefore a 4.0 GPA. And since I have like all of my classes from ninth grade, all of my high school classes over 4 years had over 80%. I had a straight 4.0 GPA. Another thing that they also look at is standardized test scores, so the SAT and the ACT. I'm not sure if they're still doing that now because of COVID-19. I think they dropped that requirement for standardized test scores. But 4 years ago when I applied in 2015, that was still a requirement. They accept both the SAT and the ACT. The ACT is slightly different in that they also have a science section. So if science is your like strong point, I would recommend trying the ACT. I would recommend trying both because they both have different testing protocols, and so like see what like suits you best. There is a bit of an equivalence between an SAT score and an ACT score. You can like look that up online. I did slightly better on the ACT because it had the science component that lifted it up. But yeah, going back to like the admissions process, the way MIT admits its people is that it takes your grades and your standardized test scores as a mere qualifier. So if you pass a certain threshold, you just move on to the second stage. And then from there, they don't care about your grades anymore. They look at who you are as a person, the extracurriculars you've done, the passion you've shown towards different fields, and the contributions you can make to the MIT community. Yeah, that is the primary admissions criteria, I guess. So you need to make sure that you have good grades and good standardized test scores. Otherwise, like you will just get canned in the first round of admissions. But apart from that, you need to you need to be an interesting person, basically. That's these are the words of Chris Peterson, the admissions director, who gives a lot of talks around at various events about like the MIT admissions process. So yeah.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. That was a really good answer. So we know that academics at the end of the day isn't just everything. We also have to focus on extracurriculars and how to build your character. So our next question is, were there any outside factors that had affected your decision to apply to your university or program, as in like parental influences, friends, high school experiences, etc.?
For me, from an early age, I was exposed to technology. Like my dad and my grandfather were big in IT and computer engineering, like fiddling around with computers. And for me, I got into the software side of things because I really like to create things that would do stuff for me, right? So like streamlining my workflow, and I am, and I still am a hands-on learner. So what I used to do was create programs that would help me do things quicker, or even just for fun, just to annoy my friends. Like one time I made a batch program that would constantly open the disk drive of their computer. That was pretty funny. But also it's like the parental influence as well. They also wanted me to get into software engineering, and I mean I had no complaints. I was in I liked computer science. I liked coding, so it was pretty streamlined for me. I didn't really have any issues in that aspect.
Yeah, same here. I mean, from an early age, I was like really a hands-on person. Like I really like learned. Like my main mode of learning was by learning by doing. So I used to take apart a lot of electronic appliances around the house when I was younger. Not saying that you should do that, but I guess that was something that influenced me in getting into this career path. Specifically at MIT, I wanted to see what it was like to be in another country, like in the US. Because since having grown up in Canada, this is kind of a little bubble here, a little bubble in the community. I wanted to, expand my horizons a little bit that way. And the thing is that one thing I should point out is I feel like in our community, in like the Muslim community specifically, there is a lot of emphasis placed um, on like science, on STEM, as well as like medicine. Like either you be an engineering or a doctor. Like one thing I would recommend, like if there are like parents listening here as well, like I would ask of you to allow your kids to explore things that are other than like STEM or medicine, things that are in the humanities, like journalism, for example. At least like right now, where like Muslims are pretty severely lacking a voice in like in media, in society. I think like if there is something like writing and journalism, like other career paths are something, those are equally important to things that such as like STEM and medicine. Of course, there is like money could also be a factor as well. But if it's something that you're open to, it's just something to consider. Yeah, I would definitely like implore all of you to look at look what makes you happy. So like ultimately you want to be in a career that that you can see yourself doing for the rest of your life, and you're not just like waiting until the end of the day every single day, waiting for it to be over. That is not something that's not a life to live. If there's something that interests you, go for it. Whether or not it's something that at least in our community, that is like traditionally considered a career path.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. So now that we know that the pandemic has really affected us, and I would like to know, how has it affected how you work? Or in high school, how could you find more opportunities?
Well, yeah, the pandemic has affected all of us, I'd say. Some more than others, but for me, since I'm in software engineering, there isn't really much of a I'd guess hands-on, like work tinkering with physical objects for me. So I usually am on my computer working away. As you can see, I'm in my room right now, which is where I have my workspace. But for high schoolers, it is really difficult. Like I can sympathize with all of you because high school is your formative years, what makes you who you are as a person, and COVID really put a wrench in all of our plans essentially. So what I'd recommend, um, just keep in touch with your friends. Don't lose that connection as well. But for people who are looking towards, like, I got a question in the chat asking about what do we do since COVID? How do we join clubs and competitions? Again, there's a lot of resources online that you can look up, maybe some side projects that you can work on. Like, for example, I tend to work on things. I'm a hands-on learner, so whenever I decide I want to learn something, I essentially go dive head first and create a project or a little side thing. It doesn't even have to be big, just something that lets you learn is a huge thing. So I'd recommend that. There are online competitions as well that you can join. I think just a month back there was a competition on Khan Academy. Um, so that was it's one option, and there's again there's a bunch of resources online.
Yeah, so I mean, like COVID is something that just kind of came out of like it kind of came out of nowhere. We did not see like this coming, basically, like how much it affected everyone. I mean, thankfully we can see the end in sight. Like vaccines are being distributed, et cetera, et cetera. So at least for now, I think do what you normally would do, just like do it virtually. If you are worried about the effects that would have on your university applications or something, don't worry about that. This is a universal issue, so like they will definitely take that into account. So yeah, like as far as clubs, I think like a lot of schools and universities, like they have like mailing lists, like sending out emails to students, like inviting them to join clubs, and which would meet virtually and whatnot. So it's just like making the best of a sticky situation. Yeah.
Jazakallah, we know that COVID has really affected us all, but we have to be together as a community. So this question is for Brother Muhammad. And why did you choose NVIDIA over other self-driving companies like Waymo or Tesla? And how do you make yourself stand out when applying for internships?
Yeah, for sure. So the reason why I chose NVIDIA was because of primarily because of their work culture. It is, I mean, there is a lot of work to do, but it is not as stressful compared to, say, Tesla, for example. I mean, I've talked to a bunch of friends who have interned at Tesla, who have interned at Waymo. I think like at Tesla, there is an expectation that you have to work on weekends. You have to work overtime if necessary, or like work overtime most of the time. If that is your mode of working, like by all means, go for it. After having done that basically over college, I wanted to dial it down a little bit. So NVIDIA was a little bit more laid back, but not laid back in the sense, and not in a bad way. It's more so they have a very strong work-life balance, and like the work culture really facilitates that, and that's like the primary reason why I joined NVIDIA. How do I make myself stand out when applying for internships? So I didn't think that I would get into self-driving cars until like my third year in college. The summer after my second year, I was doing like some electrical engineering. I interned at Vivint Smart Home, making security cameras and stuff. I was doing purely electrical engineering back then. And then I kind of made a hard pivot that fall where I realized, okay, self-driving cars are like a new emerging technology. Let me, hop on this bandwagon. And so I did a bunch of side projects that were related to self-driving cars. I So one of the notable things that I did was that I hacked my dad's car and made it self-driving. So there's this open source system called OpenPilot. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but it's open source. It's a little like device that you stick on your dashboard, and basically if your car has like a lane keep assist system already built in and adaptive cruise control with like a radar system. Like your car is probably able to interface with the system. So my dad's car was not natively supported, so I had to basically like hack into the internal network and interface the system. I'm not saying that this is like the only thing to do, but just as an example, little side projects that are related to the career path you want to take. So self-driving cars, did this little self-driving car shtick. And I think that definitely helped me a lot when I was interviewing for internships. So the following year, after my third year, I interned at Daimler. For those who don't know, that's the parent company of Mercedes-Benz, working on self-driving trucks. Yeah, and so you really, if you want to like get into a field after graduation, I would definitely recommend taking at least one internship that is related to that field. That really bolsters your application and shows that you have the skills to jump right into it. A lot of companies, they look for being able to, like they don't want to like have to teach you from scratch unless you're an intern. As a full-time role, they expect that you have some of the pertinent skills already on your mind. And yeah, so doing an internship, at least one internship, doing some side projects related to that on your own is definitely going to help your chances and securing a full-time role.
I can vouch to that answer from Mohammed. He has basically made my car self-driving more than me. My wife enjoys the self-driving aspect of that car, especially if you're going on long drives. So Jazakallah khair, Mohammed, for making our car self-driving. Thank you.
Okay, so in terms of the application process, we know that some universities offer, during the process, some universities ask for an interview session where you have to record yourself answering some questions that they ask you. So how do you overcome anxiety and fear during these interview sessions, or maybe when you're applying for a job, how do you overcome that fear that you may have?
Well, for me, what I had was video interviews. Well, it wasn't really an interview. Basically, they'd give us questions, and then we'd have to answer them on camera. Essentially, what I'd suggest is that for Canada, the university application is that this video interview won't hurt your chances. It'll only improve it, right? So I went in with that mentality saying, I'll just do my best. If I stutter or if I mess up, it's not that big of a deal because it won't hurt my chances essentially, right? And just be yourself, honestly. Like if you're trying to fabricate this type of person that isn't you, they will notice. Like they will catch on to that, right? And so what I'd suggest is that this is gonna, like, you won't see them again. If it's in person, you won't see them again, right? So just do your best. Um just be yourself, honestly. Like I'm saying this as a person who gets really, really nervous during interviews. But as it goes on, you get more comfortable and you're able to speak more clearly, right? Maybe so just go with the flow. You got this, and just don't worry about hurting your chances because it won't.
In the US, for US universities, it's a little bit different. Many top universities require an interview, like an in-person interview with an alumni volunteer. So one bit of advice that I would give for that is like come prepared don't come prepared like with a massive binder of your assignments and stuff that you've done. Just like have some pictures on your phone, like rehearse what you want to say. Like you basically want to talk about what you have done. A lot of projects that you have, like, speak about the projects that you have done, things that you are passionate about. Just make sure that you have those things, just on your mind, rehearsed a few times. Ideally, you want to like take charge of the interview. They're just there to, see who you are as a person, and they're more than willing to, give you the floor for, the entire hour and a half that well, at least mine was. So if you have like projects that you've done, little extracurriculars. So not only do you want to talk about the specifics of the extracurriculars, you want to also talk about what you have, how it has impacted you, like the skills that you've learned, how it has changed you as a person. Ideally, you want to really emphasize how your actions or how your projects and how your projects have changed you as a person, how you have grown as a person. Because the thing to remember is that you do these projects you're doing these projects for your own benefit. You're not doing this to, specifically, quote unquote, suck up to the university. That's something that they really don't like. They want you to just, again, be yourself, do something that makes you happy and really show that it makes you happy. And that this is something that you would continue doing with or without an admission to that particular university. So it's kind of like you want to show that you don't really need them, need that university. You are an independent person on your own. But yeah, that's the gist of it. Be yourself and demonstrate that you are that you are happy doing what you do.
Okay, so this question is directed for the students who are planning to leave their homes. So what is your experience as a Canadian to be studying in the US, and what are the main challenges of going away from home and boarding at university?
Okay, so the biggest culture shock that I received is the fact that there's copay for healthcare. Here in Canada, you just walk into a hospital or walk into a doctor's office, get patched up, and walk right out. In the US, you have a copay, you have health insurance. Healthcare is not free. That's about the extent of it. The US and Canada are very similar in terms of culture, in terms of diversity. Being away from family gave me another perspective, like living on my own. That was the first time that I was like truly independent, responsible for my own actions. And honestly, I am, grateful for that time. It really helped me grow as a person, really shape me for who I am today. And I definitely would recommend like everyone to, like, if your college has a option to like stay on residence for at least a year, I would definitely recommend everyone try that. It's a truly life-changing experience. And yeah, and Boston is a really fun city. So even if you do go to one of the colleges in the Boston area, like MIT or Harvard or Tufts or otherwise, it's a really nice, like growing up in the suburbs here in Markham is really different from being in downtown core of a major metropolitan city. Yeah, your freshman year or your first year is like the 1 year where you really want to explore as many things as possible. And yeah, all of those experiences just help you grow as a person.
Brother Danish, would you like to add to that, or?
For individuals that are coming through like to Canada, right? Like I have a bunch of friends who are immigrating from the Middle East as well. It's really hard. It is a culture shock, and especially people who are leaving Canada to go to other universities, maybe in the US. It is a huge culture shock to move away from your families. But honestly, I'd say like building again a social circle really helps with that, because you have people to rely on because your family isn't here, right? You can always call them, but you'll never see them in person like every day, right? So it is hard. I can't really like I don't really have that personal experience because I go to University of Ottawa. It's in Canada, although it's pretty far. It is essentially the same culture we have in Toronto, right? Especially with the Muslim community as well. So it isn't much different. I don't really have much else to add.
So, Jazakallah khair. So, we're almost out of time. So we're just going to be taking having a few more questions and then we'll wrap it up. So how did you prepare yourself for university in software, and which projects did you do, and what courses did you take, and did you do AP?
For software engineering, really, I did a bunch of side projects just cuz, right? Because I'm a hands-on learner. It's different for everyone. Like honestly, like it's different for everyone. Some people may not be as good with hands-on learning, right? Because there are different types as well, right? So I just did things that interested me. And the courses I took, well, in high school, I took computer science courses, obviously. I did do robotics, things like that. And you can learn all of this on your own as well. Like if you don't have these courses offered in high school, you can totally learn on your own through YouTube, through Codecademy, through even doing it on your own or reading the docs. Like if you're like me, what I did was just reading through documentation of certain languages or APIs and just going with it, right? And eventually, you will get good at those certain languages as well, right? Like I see a question in the chat right now, like how would you recommend coding today? I think that's a bit relevant to this question. So I learned through online resources again and through classes in high school. Um, but yeah, that's about it. I mean, there's a lots of resources online that you can use.
Yeah, so specifically off the top of my head, there's HackerRank, there's LeetCode. Those are the two main like websites where you can definitely learn how to code. Those websites are usually very similar to problems that you would face in like technical interviews for jobs. So I would definitely like recommend start looking at those. We'll put up links in the chat. Actually, you know what? I'll do that like right after this question. Yeah, so definitely check those out. Those are the two main ones that come off the top of my head. If you are in college right now, there is a book that I would definitely recommend, Cracking the Coding Interview. I will send a link to that as well. That definitely helped me through understanding how interviews work, what kind of mindset I need to have going into it, and what kind of strategies I can employ to, make a good first impression with the recruiter. Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. So our next question is, what branch of engineering has the most future potential and growth?
Honestly, like I can't really say that none of them have potential for growth because all aspects of engineering are important because they're application based. Engineering is application, right? So there's things like civil engineering, computer engineering, mechanical engineering, software engineering. All these things we do need in the future, right? We can't get rid of any, essentially, right? So I'd say all of them are really, really good courses or degrees to have, right? So I wouldn't specifically say any is better than the others. So if you like any of them, you can go into it, but I wouldn't base my decision on which is better or which has the most prospects, because all of them do, in my opinion.
So as far as engineering goes, I mean, there are many fields in engineering. It depends on how patient you are. If you are still in high school, quantum mechanics is an emerging field, quantum computing. That is something that will take a few years to, pick up steam. Software engineering is obviously there. Self-driving vehicles are also emerging. It is starting to reach the saturation point. So if you are like, nearing the end of your university career, self-driving cars are something you might want to look into. Nuclear engineering, nuclear fusion technology, that is still like 10-ish years out. So if that's something, so you really want to ask yourself, do you want to just make a boatload of money, or do you want to have a large impact on the field? And also, like, how much education do you want to get in that field? If you have, do you want to just get a bachelor's, or do you want to do a master's as well? Do you want to do a PhD in that subject? A PhD is the way that you would need to take if you want to make like a major contribution to that field. Nuclear engineering is something that is emerging. If you want to get into like a if you wanted to do a PhD in some sort of engineering field and have a large impact. So yeah, quantum mechanics, quantum computing, self-driving vehicles, artificial intelligence, and nuclear engineering. Those are the 5 things that I would say are emerging right now. So it looks like we are almost out of time. So one really important piece of advice that I want to give people who are going to college: as soon as you turn 18, please get a credit card. Start building your credit score. I have so many friends who do not have a credit card after they graduate, and they're trying to look for a place to rent after once they sign their full-time job, but they don't have a credit score. So definitely would recommend, think of your financial future as well. As soon as you turn 18 and are able to do, build your own credit score, I would definitely recommend doing that. That is the one thing that I would say is probably the best decision that I've made at that time in college, is getting a credit card as soon as I turned 18 and starting to build my credit score. Oh yeah, and pay your bills on time so you can avoid the interest.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. So that basically concludes the session. So for the people who have asked questions beforehand, Danish and Brother Muhammad can reach out to you because we have your emails associated with the question. So Jazakallah khair everyone for joining, and I'm gonna pass it on to my uncle.
Jazakallah khair, Muhammad, Danish, and Nuha for joining this session, for hosting this session, and really appreciate all your insight that you shared with the community. So the very purpose of this session was to really, we want to show that our community has bright students, and we want them to excel in their career. We want them to achieve the highest, both in Deen and Dunya. And that's the reason why we thought that we will have this session with my son, Muhammad Nasir, and with my nephew, Danish Khan, and our beautiful young daughter, my niece, Nuha Khan. Thanks again, everyone. So this session has been recorded, and inshallah, I'll be sharing this link of the YouTube recorded session through Masjid WhatsApp group, as well as through our newsletter, and and also post it on our website, daruliman.org. Once again, Jazakallah khair, everyone. Jazakallah khair for the panelist and the moderator, Nuha Khan. You all have a blessed day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.